Hi, happy spring, and this is Jen with DIY Anyone back to be with you today. So glad to be back. I've had a little bit of time I've needed for some health reasons and trying to get to where I'm back on track. So, what we have for you today, it's Heidi. Oh, sorry, we spelled your name wrong, Heidi. Heidi. Heidi Sonboul's DIY challenge today, and I took the approach to three different items. So, this particular bird cage, I know you can't read it. I thought you could, but it was regularly $14.99 at Goodwill, and I got it for half price. So what? That's $7.50. And it was filthy dirty. The little green tray at the bottom there needed some work and to be cleaned. I had actually cleaned it when I pulled that out, but the rest of it I had not cleaned. So what the goal was to take that toothbrush and scrub between every single little bar of that or whatever branch of that bird cage. And so I'm going to get rid of this, I'll move on here in just a minute. But notice too how that really cool hanger is all wiggly and all it needed was just to be tightened. And so then it was all good to go. All right, so then see this old-timey sifter? I had this sitting on a shelf and my daughter said, why don't you put some flowers in that inside your bird cage? And you can see how old it is. There's the little, when you turn it, the little pieces of metal that go around and sift the flour. So we thought, all right, let's throw a flower arrangement in there and then put that in the bird cage. So I just had some peonies and I got these from Amazon. They were really so full. Didn't want to obviously hot glue that sifter. So when you have a container that you really care about, I just used some tissue paper that worked really well, and then it didn't damage at all. And then I ended up putting a little bit of fern on the top where you could see the pink. Once I got it in the cage, you could see the hot pink tissue. So like I say, just use some Excelsior or fern or grass or even just some extra leaves you can push down in there, and then it makes it where it still holds your arrangement intact and you don't damage the item, and then you can display it in whatever you're planning on doing. Even just sitting that sifter on the shelf with some flowers would be adorable. Do you not agree? So then we're going to put the flower arrangement there, and then I also was going to hang some ivies out of there. And the way I did that was I first put a few of the ivy pieces. It's actually a amaranthus. No, I don't think that's right. I'm sorry. Anyway, it's one of the Dollar Tree hanging down sort of plants. And so I was going to do that and put it in there, and then it just looked too weird because of the distance between the sifter and the outside of the cage. I've seen stuff hang outside of that, but that in that particular case with that particular vessel, it just didn't work right. So I just did some directly inside the sifter, just hung it over the edge, did some Scotch tape, and then that kind of helped to hold that in place. So when I was putting it in and out of the bird cage. Now here's the other little crazy thing about these old cages like this. The only way that you get that holder, the green tray, back underneath is to somehow hold up the item inside, or it might have wings otherwise, and then replace that tray. So I just kind of gently just set the cage on its side and then slid that little green tray in. And you see that little black moving ball of fur in the upper corner? That's Ruthie, my grand dog. She's a full black German Shepherd, adorable, but is like the Tasmanian devil. All right, so you can see that that tray. Then once you get that set in there, then you can just raise the little cage, and here's some views of what it looked like inside. All right, now the next thing I have here, this is something that I would like some input from y'all. So I got this from Goodwill. It was marked $15. I got it on price for half price, and I have to confess, I have a weaknesses for bird cages anyway. And, the immediate thing I did, of course, was just to wipe it up, wipe the leaves clean and so forth. The roses, I think, make it look a little bit older. I'm thinking I could put some different flowers on it. But there's actual wood on the outside of this. It's almost like a sheet of, like, I don't know what, maybe coconut stuff. And so I just hate painting it if that's not the right choice. So give me some input on what you think you'd do with this if you'd gotten it from Goodwill to make it fit for you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, this Gather tobacco basket, that's the original that what we saw here, and you'll see the price tag there says $34.99 minus 80%. Thank you very much. So that was from Hobby Lobby, and that had that bow on the top of it that was pretty crummy. And then if you turn over the back, you can see the two pieces of wire that keep this in place. So I just snipped the wire off, and then that arrangement is in perfect condition to be able to use again in October on any of the fall stuff that we choose. So that'll be fun. So watch how it just comes right off as one piece. Pretty slick. So that's what I'm going to save to use at another time. And you can paint any of that or just leave it as it is. There's just so many options. So now I left the Gather, the letters in there. That bow, I don't think I've seen one quite that sad looking for something they were originally asking $35 for in my entire life. So I just eventually am going to pull that bow off. Then there's also a spot on this basket that was broken. So what I did was I didn't want any glue to show from the front. So from the back there's one little area of raw wood. And I just put a little bit of glue on there, and hot glue. And you could, wood glue would have been certainly a good choice as well. Probably longer lasting. But I just put that on there to kind of hold it in place. And then you'll see a pink clip, one of those pink clips that I use from Dollar Tree. You can see it on there, and that just kind of held it in place, and then it has held beautifully. All right, so ripping that bow off, and it has this massive glob of glue underneath it, and that I'll end up just putting another bow over top. Then what we're going to do with this tobacco basket is we're going to just take the Dollar Tree has some gorgeous magnolias. And so I have some magnolias and some ranunculus. They're like the roses that look like they're super tight, but it's called ranunculus. And then some eucalyptus from Walmart. And so we're going to just arrange that in a kind of a crisscross fashion with the ends of the stems coming towards each other, so we can arrange them. And I'll just fuss with that for a minute. But did you know? Have you seen in Dollar Trees yet the Dollar Tree Plus area? And so it's not large clothes, okay? That's not the plus they're talking about. They had over there in the new Dollar Tree Plus, it's in the bigger stores in your region, and it's brand new. And they had name brand Disney products. They had items that were like $1, $3, $5, and $10. They had some cute summer outside toys. They had those concrete houses that are really cool, although they're not like night lights, but I have really cool concrete house I got. They had some wood houses. They just all kind of cool stuff. All right, so you can see how I arranged that, and then I just took 2 pieces of the wire twine and wired that in, and then that'll be very easy to change that out when the next season hits. But those magnolias from Dollar Tree are really, really nice. They're very full. And so I had some of this chicken wire ribbon, and I thought, oh, let's try that. So I'm putting the chicken wire ribbon on top of just regular burlap ribbon. I'm going to make a bow here. Now that fabric rose, those are from Dollar Tree too. I don't end up using that because the sides of it have this weird paper on it, and I couldn't get it in this particular bow to sit down in and be flat enough, so I opted not to use it this particular time. But anyway, so this Dollar Tree Plus, so back to that. So they have clothing items, they have toiletries, they have like rugs, towels, not toiletries is what I meant to say, is, bath items. They have good sized canvases, like 11 by 14 for $5. Look how cute that ribbon is on top of that, or the wire is on top of that ribbon. Anyway, they have big canvases that have paintings on them that you wouldn't necessarily want to use, just like we have at Dollar Tree a lot. And so you could easily cut that canvas off or use the inside of it, use the bigger frame. I mean, it has opened the door. And one more item that you won't believe. They have Cricut, yes, the Cricut type of vinyl. It's not the same brand. It is Crafter Square, but it is permanent vinyl that you can use with a Cricut machine. Now, have I tested it yet? No, I have not, and I will do a video and compare that if somebody doesn't beat me to it. I'm sure there's probably somebody going to do that anytime, but the Crafter Square vinyl is 12 inches by 4 feet for $1. Yes, $1. And they had black, white, blue, green, red, as I remember. They also had the transfer tape without any kind of a grid on it, and then the transfer tape that does have the grid that's, you know, to line stuff up with. Okay, so when you look at this bow, if you look at, I just took, again, the wired ribbon, and I'm cutting off the piece on the back that's not going to stick. And there's a plain piece of twine that I'll stick down and make that so that stays in place. Now, how do you cut something like this? So I opted to go ahead and just cut it at an angle, the dovetail you wouldn't really appreciate with this kind of product. So I just cut it at an angle just to make it look neat and to make the edges match. And there's a piece of that wire sitting there, and I did catch it. That after I cut this off, it's still sitting in it, but I did catch it before it ended up stuck in the piece. And so just decide how you want to cut it. You can cut it any angle you want. And then to, you know, just glue that on there really well in that spot where the other bow was. And there you've got a really cute, oh, I'm pulling that. I'm sorry, before I do that, the final gluing, that's just to glue that piece of twine down and make sure it's intact, and then I'll glue the whole thing down. Of course, you gotta fluff it. Always do your fluffing. I want to thank you so much for Heidi for hosting this challenge today. And there is a playlist, and I would love it if y'all would watch everything on there after you finish this video and go see what the other makers have. There's so many cool ideas. Spring is here, and we can start getting out the pretty colors and fun stuff and putting away the wintry items. So glad to be back, and thank you, Heidi, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye now.